Hello and welcome to the Intuitive Websites webinar. We're very happy to have Gil Cargill with us today to talk about sales and increasing your sales and literally putting millions on your top line. I'm going to do a quick introduction and then we're going to get started. Good morning, Gil. How are you?
I'm excellent. How's everybody out there today?
Everyone in Colorado is doing great. Gil's in California. We're in Colorado, and we've been partnering and working together now for a few years, and I've actually known about Gil going back many years to when you were featured in sales management magazines and sales training magazines, and I used to read about Gil, and it was a pleasure to finally meet him. Gil has 41 years experience in sales training, sales management, and in helping people excel in sales and marketing. He has over 7,000 engagements. He's worked with thousands and thousands of salespeople. And what I like about Gil is the fact that he brings real world actionable ideas to the table. It's not theory, it's not conceptual, it's what actually works to drive sales for a company. And Gil also embraces digital marketing. He really understands how important it is to use to drive leads and to grow your organization and to complement what your sales team is doing. That's one of the reasons why we work with Gil at Intuitive Websites. So having said that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Gil, and why don't you get started. We're going to allow questions to be asked using the chat box. And of course, you can always submit your question and we'll get to it when we have a break. So with that, Gil, why don't you go for it and let's learn about putting millions on your top line.
Excellent. It's a pleasure to be here, and I hope everybody's having a great day. What I'm going to talk about in the next 30, 40 minutes, 45 minutes is the sales process. The sales process is the issue that keeps companies from optimizing their performance. When I started my practice way back in 1978, I was the guy that you'd hire to come out and train your salespeople. And in the 4+ decades that I've been doing this, I've earned a lot of honors. I've been featured on magazine covers. But the real light bulb went on when I realized that selling today is a process. And the process that most companies use was documented in 1873. If you want to have a little fun when you're done with the webinar today, please Google the name Patterson and the company NCR. Patterson is the guy that started NCR back in the 1870s. He wrote the first sales training manual that I know of in the United States in 1873. I have a copy of his 1895 edition of the manual that he wrote to train his salespeople to sell cash registers to retail establishments throughout the United States. What's tragic about that is that if you'll Google him and you'll find excerpts of his manual, he taught his people to sell in exactly the same fashion that we are, by and large, teaching our salespeople to sell today. The problem is the customer's buying process has changed, but we haven't changed the selling process. I believe that your profit, the way to put millions on your top line, is to focus on the process. Traditional sales training produces temporary results, and one of the biggest problems with it is that you can't determine whether or not training changed the behavior of the sales team. Sales training's mission, I believe, is to help the sales team get better, more effective, more profitable activities and behaviors. Unfortunately, you can't inspect those behaviors and activities because they're not measured. So we also have a complication of what I call the rubber band effect, because we humans tend to rubber band back to the behaviors we were executing before the training. Studies that I've read tell me that the average duration of a sales training event is 5.3 weeks. I've also found that if management is unwilling or incapable of reinforcing the new, more effective, more productive behaviors, that you may as well save your money. On the other hand, when management gets involved with reinforcing the correct behaviors and holding the team accountable for complying with those best practices, there is a 36% probability of improving your top line. So here comes one of the reasons for adding millions to your top line. As I said a moment ago, the buying process has changed. And if you've been in sales as long as I started selling for IBM in 1970, you can clearly see that the behavior of the buyer is much different than it was back in the, quote, good old days. Some studies tell us that 84% of the decisions that are made regarding buying a new product or new service or building a relationship with a new vendor are pre-made. And this is why I work with Tom and the Intuitive team, because digital marketing is the best, most efficient, and fastest way to get your value proposition into the head of a prospective buyer. If they are making most of the decision before they meet a salesperson, you have to have a way to get in front of them. Digital marketing is the only way that I know of that's legal, ethical, moral, and non-fattening to get your message in front of those folks. So Tom, let me ask you, compared to traditional prospecting or marketing methods, how effective is digital marketing at getting your message in front of a prospect before they make the decision to buy?
Well, it comes back to talking about the prospect. What is going through the mind of the prospect? And today, what's going through the mind of prospects is, how can I shut off information? How can I shut off things that are constantly bombarding me? And what digital marketing does, it allows prospects to find what they want to find and then reach out to talk to a sales rep and have an interaction with the sales rep. And it goes back to what you said about, how selling has changed in the past 100 years. There's an argument to be made that the internet really turned sales on its head, changed everything around sales, put so much more power and control in the hands of the prospect. And so because of that, I think digital marketing is absolutely critical to getting through and starting these relationships so you can actually sell, so you can close deals.
Absolutely. I think the phrase "a day late and a dollar short" was coined for those salespeople that Tom was just talking about, or those sales teams that haven't embraced digital marketing. If your prospects are searching for solutions, products, and vendors as we speak, and if you're not one of the people they're considering, guess what? You'll be a day late and a dollar short more often than not. And some studies basically say that the first salesperson that shows up gets the orders. Now, the keys to adding millions of dollars to your top line can be broken down into the two words on your screen: volume and velocity as it pertains to the funnel. The more opportunities in your funnel, the more money will come out of your funnel. The better you are at negotiating, adding value, following up, staying in touch with prospects, the more deals will close more rapidly. So the balance of my presentation is really focused on increasing the volume of opportunities, and I can change the word volume and call it digital marketing, and velocity, which focuses on understanding the needs of the customer. If you can solve a problem for a prospect before your competition does, you'll win the day. Now, the volume focus of the equation really boils down to the number of marketing qualified leads needed. Now, I'm going to ask the audience to do a little bit of homework. If I were one of your salespeople, and let's say you just hired me today, how many marketing qualified leads do I need to have above the funnel in order to make my goal? Please note, I stated above the funnel. You see, a marketing qualified lead is someone that came to your website, filled in a form, downloaded a paper, signed up for an event or whatever, but they have not yet earned the status of a sales qualified lead. One of the problems with the process that we fix through a combination of digital marketing and sales management process evaluation is we assure that salespeople never get raw leads. A raw lead at one level is a waste of a salesperson's time. All leads go through the process of being a marketing qualified lead, and then when they've been nurtured and qualified utilizing digital strategies, they become a sales qualified lead. And at that point, you hand it off to the salesperson. So as a new person, hypothetically new hire for your company, how many marketing qualified leads do I need to look at all times? And how many sales qualified leads do I need to look at all times? How many demographically desirable opportunities exist in my market? And therefore, how many quotes and proposals are needed? When those questions are answered, you and your salespeople have control of the volume in your funnel. Now, the number one problem with sales is we ain't there when they want to buy. Excuse the bad grammar, it's done deliberately. I find that salespeople that don't close deals today will tend to abandon those deals prematurely. Some studies show that 45 to 63% of the prospects who said not now will buy similar or identical products from someone in the near future. Your job is to stay in touch with them, again, utilizing digital strategies. I call that closed loop marketing, which can be accomplished with any number of digital tools. The number two problem that you need to address is how much selling time you actually allow your salespeople. Now, because you've attended today and registered, I'm going to send everyone on the call my sales manager's toolkit. In the toolkit, you'll find an exercise called the time and task analysis. Please run that on yourself or on your sales team, because I think you'll be shocked. The average business-to-business salesperson in North America today has between 29 and 32 or 33% of the business day available to them for selling. So this young lady came to work today with an intention to follow up on the leads that came from the website. But her boss threw a ton of non-sales tasks at her, and she's getting random inputs from other members of the team. Accounts receivable wants her help in collection. Shipping wants her help in logistics. Customers have called in. These create time clashes, and she does not have enough time available to sell. And that then manifests itself as a gap of good intentions. And folks, I'm here to tell you that virtually every salesperson I've worked with has been frustrated by this phenomenon. They come to work with a game plan for the day, and almost inevitably something throws that game plan upside down, and then they are in trouble. You should also be cognizant of the fact that 14% of your customers, regardless of how good you feel they are, will be changing every year. Now, that study was published by the Sales Lead Management Association. Consequently, I believe that the new cliche for sales success should not be always be closing, but should be always be prospecting. Every company needs to be prospecting, but please don't put that on your salespeople. Digital marketing prospects far more efficiently, far more effectively, and less expensively than any salesperson can prospect. For instance, did you know that 95% of cold calls go into voicemail? So think about it. You're paying a salesperson a good buck to call people repeatedly and leave the same message on their voicemail box. Digital marketing, on the other hand, can scour the entire market. I call prospecting searching. And digital marketing will search the marketplace to find the people that are sales qualified leads. So you have MQLs, marketing qualified, and SQL, sales qualified. The goal should be for you to have 3 times your annual goal of sales qualified leads in your funnel at all times. Let me repeat that. I really don't care how you fill your funnel, but you must have your funnel at 3x your annual goal at all times. And the phrase, the key is at all times. So if you need 100 leads in your funnel at all times, and let's say you close 20 of them this month, let's go out in the parking lot and do the happy dance, but I want you to replace those 20 immediately. And that's because sales, as I view it, is like manufacturing. And when you stop and think about it, we really are manufacturing transactions, duh. And it is therefore a process. You manufacture transactions, we manufacture customers, and we manufacture profits. But the manufacturing world has embraced assembly lines like the one you see on your screen today. Sales teams force their salespeople to do everything. Manufacturing has realized that by creating systematic assembly line approaches, they dramatically improve the effectiveness of the overall organization. So part of what I advocate is let's create, to the degree possible, an assembly line, starting with the database of the universe, touching them with digital marketing, finding the people that are interested in talking to you right now, and finding people that are interested later on, staying in touch, again with digital activities, and handing off those qualified opportunities to your sales team. You see, I believe that salespeople enjoy and are most beneficial to their employer and are most beneficial to themselves when they're conducting presentations, either on the phone or face-to-face. Everything else is either getting ready for the presentation or getting involved in logistics after the presentation. In our world, and we've helped our client companies, our best client has improved their top line by 72% year to year by changing their attitude regarding deployment of the sales resource. Actually, during this year, 2 of the 6 salespeople that were there when we started resigned because they didn't want to be accountable. And you may have encountered that mentality in some salespeople somewhere along the line. But the 4 people that remained are only doing presentations over the phone and face-to-face. Proposals are created by someone other than the salesperson. Follow-up is done by someone other than the salesperson. Prospecting is done by someone other than the salesperson. So if you don't get anything else out of today other than this concept, then please take this away. Salespeople should sell, and everyone else should do everything else. Digital marketing does a ton of the front-end work. And here's why. Take a look at this young man. Now, I love this photo because it explains the concept of today's sales professional. The average salesperson in B2B selling is engaged in 83 disparate tasks every day. When you do 83 different things daily, you're going to drop the ball more than once. You're not going to be very proficient at some or all of those things. And again, negotiating, presenting, and selling is what he does best, how he makes commissions and bonuses, and how he drives profit for his employer. So the more time you can give him to sell, combined with the more sales-ready leads, the better off you are. Now, traditional sales training generated $6 billion in training revenues a few years ago. Tragically, during that same time period, sales proficiency dropped. So skills training isn't the secret sauce. Process training is, and digital marketing to feed leads to the sales team is the secret sauce. Salespeople should sell, and everyone else should do everything else. And prospecting is not selling. Prospecting is searching for someone who wants to buy. Let digital marketing, as Tom and his team will deploy it, do that searching for you. Wait for people to raise their hands and say, I'm interested. I know what you sell. I have a good idea of your core value. Let's see if there's a good fit. That's when you want a salesperson to get in there. It's too expensive to ask a salesperson to prospect or search for someone who's ready to buy. As I said before, the average sales training session, typical training methodology, has a 5.3-week lifespan. The people that are senior salespeople tend to regress, tend to push back on sales training. They have a been there, done that mentality, and the process problems aren't addressed. So the second major point that I want you to take out of here today is that sales methodology training is in place by virtually all companies. There are workshops every day in every city around the country done by somebody, all of whom claim they have the best method for sales training. And every company on this call has a product knowledge training component at one level or another, It may be as simple as, here's our price sheet and our product numbers, and it may be very complicated. But very few companies have process management training. And that's how you add millions to the top line. Process management speaks to the metrics or the KPIs associated with success. And one of the benefits of utilizing digital marketing is the most important KPI of all of them can be tracked, can be quantified and inspected, as opposed to what most managers do is they hope they get good numbers and are looking forward to a celebration. Every company that I've coached has a process. The vast majority of these processes are not written down. The very few of them have the ability to hand out a playbook to new employees. Consequently, as they hire people, they tend to say, go get them, Bubba or Babette. That forces sales management to become cheerleaders, not coaches. And coaching is the secret sauce, but you have to coach to metrics and to process. You can't be a motivator because motivation is temporary at best. So homework, do you have a written playbook in your hands? If not, when you get my toolkit, there is a template of a sales process playbook in there, and I encourage you to modify it to be specific for your team so that you will have a process that's measurable, repeatable, easily inspected, and most importantly, predictable. So let's take a hard look at how to start this process of changing your approach to selling. The first thing I want you to do is identify sales process bottlenecks. Now, a lot of salespeople, myself included back in my IBM days, joked about a sales prevention department or sales prevention unit being in place. Many companies have low-paid, non-trained people who are interacting with customers and or salespeople, and at one level or another can actually suppress the ability of the team to produce optimum levels of revenue. The next item on your screen is called the consideration rate, and this is where digital marketing comes in. Consideration rate and the next item, marketing footprint, go hand in hand. Marketing footprint reflects on the number of relationships in the market that are going to think of you and your team when they recognize the need. So it doesn't count if you have 1,000 companies in your database and you haven't touched them in months. You may as well have none in your database. So to get optimum consideration rate, which means you'll be considered for every desirable opportunity in your market, you must have a large marketing footprint. Tom, why don't you take a minute or two and talk about how digital marketing will dramatically increase the size of the marketing footprint and therefore the consideration rate, what percent of the transactions consider you in any given market for any given company.
It's a great point that you're making. And as I was listening to you talk about filling the top of the funnel and using digital marketing to fill the top of the funnel, it can do that very well. We see that with our clients all the time. You could literally bring in hundreds of leads to fill in the top of that funnel. There's two key components that people need to think about when they start doing this with digital marketing. The first one is strategy, is that converting folks through digital is usually done best through a strategic approach, really understanding the needs of the folks that you're converting and how to make that happen. The second thing I want to mention is that there are so many different techniques now to convert. There's so many different conversion points that are needed. And this is something that every year has been accelerating more and more. It used to be that your website was the primary source for conversions, right? Well, now conversion points through digital marketing can happen through dozens of different sources, from customized web portals to social media to email marketing to all sorts of different things online. The key is finding out, where does your target market go to get information in your industry, and then what multiple channels do they use, and then making sure you have a presence there. what we see with our clients that they do quite frequently is they have their favorite method for converting and they focus on that. And by doing that, they're ignoring all these other areas. They might be ignoring LinkedIn. They might be ignoring a customized web portal in that industry where folks go to get information. So this is all key to filling that top of the funnel. And absolutely, digital marketing then has to work hand in hand with your sales process, because what good is the lead at the top of the funnel if you don't have an excellent sales process to bring them through to closure?
Absolutely. When I coach companies, I say once somebody's in the funnel, we have to follow up on them until they buy or die. And in the tragic event that the decision maker passes on, then we need to follow up with whoever took over and remind them that his last wishes were to do business with you, and we need to honor his memory with a contract. So being a little bit on the bodacious side there. But benchmark your consideration rate and your marketing footprint. How many names are in your database today? ? And how often do you touch them? Best practices say you should have a touch going out to everybody every month. And a super best practice is you need to have all of the demographically desirable companies in your marketing database at all times. Now, the best way to find out how many companies exist in your market is for you to benchmark with a phone call to a list broker. I don't care who you call, but I do care that you ask him or her for a count of the number of demographically desirable opportunities that exist in your market today, and that will be the benchmark against which you should build your marketing footprint. Now you're looking at a pie chart that reflects the time and task studies that we've done with about 400 companies. And we've just averaged them, and they are all B2B companies, no retail. And they all employ outside salespeople. 34% of that man or woman's day is spent doing administrative tasks. And the most expensive, least productive, and horribly morale-reducing activity for a real sales professional is doing administrative tasks. So our entire approach to putting millions on the top line is to turn this yellow slice of the pie dark blue with prospects or light blue with customers, so that you can have an increase in your top line. And take a look at it. The current sales time, 14% with prospects, 15% with customers, is 29% of the day. If we eliminated all of the non-sales administrative tasks and put them on someone else's shoulders, that would allow your average salesman or woman to more than double the amount of sales time available to them per calendar day. And when you double sales time, regardless of your proficiency, and you give that person twice as many leads, do the math, the top line will grow. So after you've benchmarked your current process, we want to remove bottlenecks. Now, one of the things I really want you to calculate, and again, the toolkit will show you how to calculate this, is what's the revenue per sales hour generated per salesperson. You see, if I only have 29% of the day to sell, and in B2B selling, I can't get customers to come in before 6 or after 5 or whatever, so I have a finite amount of selling time. Now, you can do some very simple math to calculate the revenue per sales hour. That should become the benchmark against which you measure every requirement for your sales team. Here's a problem that literally came up yesterday with one of my clients. They have one of the very popular CRM systems installed. I pointed out that they're not using all of the capabilities of that system, and that they should hire one of the certified experts from that CRM company to come in and set up new approaches, methodologies, and capabilities to optimize sales time, number one, and optimize their marketing footprint. Management said, that's a great idea. We will train our salespeople to do that. And I said, who do you have on staff that's an expert in this system that can do that training? And they said, nobody. I said, how are you going to get the training done? they said the software publisher has some videos. We'll make our team watch the videos and we'll make our team change the software. Well, when you compare the revenue per sales hour, and in this case, it was over $800 per hour of revenue for every hour of selling time, how many hours do you want your team doing non-sales tasks during the business day? Once again, I believe salespeople should sell and everyone else should do everything else, because the opportunity dollars that you lose when your team is forced to do non-sales tasks during the business day are huge. Consider having administrative people do it, or outsource the task, or consider a new position that I call a sales development representative. This is a man or woman whose primary job is to manage and run your database and tee up appointments for your sales team. And everything we do from here on out, it has to be focused on metrics, because metrics produce magic in terms of top-line growth. Right now, I would wager that most companies don't know how many marketing qualified leads they need. They don't know how many sales qualified leads they need, nor do they have a documented process in place to convert those marketing qualified leads into sales qualified leads. They have no metrics on how many new names are going into their database, so they really can't measure the business development activities that are being employed by their team. They, one of the things that I love is LinkedIn, and Tom mentioned that a moment ago. It's a great way for you to benchmark where you're going and to meet new people. I encourage people to get the Sales Navigator option from LinkedIn and have a sales development representative manage that for you. That's a new position for many companies. Now, one of the metrics that's vital is how many meaningful conversations did your team have last week, and what are the relationships mathematically between meaningful conversations and first meetings. First meetings start the entire sales process. So if you walk away from today with just one metric that you're going to follow from here on out, you should have the ability to inspect the number of first meetings in your calendars or in your team's calendars, and you should have the ability to mathematically project the relationship between first meetings and first orders. And what I'm about to say is going to make somebody go, duh, but it's really amazing that it's not being tracked. If you have no first meetings today, you'll get no first orders at some point in the future. That then detracts from your overall ability to predictably grow your top line. The last point is a digital marketing point, touches. How many touches do you put into your database? And this is the strategy that Tom mentioned of converting visitors at your website into prospects. If you don't touch them with email and follow-up and newsletters and other content, then you're allowing them to forget about you. We also want to build and manage with KPIs. KPI is an acronym. It stands for Key Predictive Indicators. Again, first meetings. No first meetings today, no first orders at some point in the future. The KPIs that I like to look at when I'm coaching a company or when I'm operating as an outsourced VP of sales are number of first meetings, number of dollars added to the funnel, and that should always trend up. Number of first meetings should always trend up. I want to have a verbal win, lose, postpone conversation with salespeople at the end of every month, because I believe if you forecast a deal at the beginning of the month, that one of three things and only three things will happen. You win the deal, you lose the deal, and or it's postponed. I want to know how many demonstrations are conducted and how many demonstrations are scheduled, or presentations, depending on what you sell and how you sell it. Those two words can be interchangeable. I want to measure and monitor the funnel trend and website visitors. And once again, this is where the whole digital marketing concept begins. If you have no website visitors, coming to your site, then you have some problems. Now, Tom introduced me to a tool that I've embraced in my company that lets me know who visited my website. Tom, do you want to take a moment or two and talk about anonymous website visitor?
Right. So there's several tools out there that can pull data from your website visitors to find out who's on your website, what company is on your website, and who is the user that's on your website. One tool in particular that we like is called Lead Feeder. You can find it at leadfeeder.com. They have a free trial. It's a pretty awesome tool because it tells you specifically the companies that are on your website. And when you buy their more advanced tool, you can see the LinkedIn profile of the key individuals from the company that visited you and so forth. This tool is best used to complement your top of funnel activities to know that if you have a prospect you're working to close a deal with, or you've been trying to reach for weeks, and you realize this person now is starting to go visit your website, that probably means that your deal is going to start to get initiated again, and you might want to make contact with them to reach out. So those are awesome tools to get that information. You can also get a ton of information from Google Analytics. And we still find that many of the companies that we start working with have no Google Analytics tracking set up, or if they do have it set up, it's been forgotten long ago and they're not looking at their data. And we've seen that a very top of funnel thing is that if you have more people on your website, you're going to get more conversions and more leads. But if you don't measure how many people are coming to your website through Google Analytics, you can't manage that top of funnel activity.
Absolutely.
So it's incredibly important. And I just love what Gil's saying here about process and measurement. Both of those things apply to digital as well.
Yeah, one of the things that a mistake that I made when I got that lead feeder is the second or third day I had it on my website after Tom set it up for us, I saw a prime prospect, just absolutely right in the middle of my demographic sweet spot here in Los Angeles. So guess who picked up the phone and said, "I see you were on my website yesterday," which absolutely killed the deal because they thought I was a web stalker. So you have to be a little bit of an actor or an actress and make it sound like a cold call. But other than that, this is extremely powerful stuff. And again, if you're not measuring it, you can't manage it. If you can't manage it, you will always be surprised. And the overarching tragedy that I see everywhere is business owners manage their sales process with lagging indicators. There is no manufacturing company on the planet that survives with lagging indicators. One of my passions is flying airplanes, and I have an instrument panel that gives me leading indicators that let me know that I have enough fuel to get to the next airport, that tell me if I'm getting blown off course by winds or something unpredicted has occurred. Lagging indicators tell you that you just hit a mountain and you're in real trouble. So we want to have leading indicators, and KPIs are the vehicle for that. Now, earlier I said traditional sales training doesn't work if management's not involved. And I've gotten to the point in my career where I won't train a client's salespeople unless the manager and or owner of the company is involved in the training. And here's why. They can't coach new, more effective, more efficient, more profitable behaviors if they're not involved with the training. I'm going to leave after a day or two and jump on a plane and fly home. Without a coaching plan in place, management is forced to deal with the measurements that come out of the funnel. Those are the lagging indicators. Dollars are a lagging indicator, not a leading indicator, and they are forced to become a cheerleader. So in your toolkit, you'll find a coaching plan. Please print it out, examine it, and work with one salesperson who needs coaching the most on a perpetual improvement basis. Use that template and praise the improvement of the employee. If you handle large and strategic accounts, it's vital that you add names to your database at all times. Remember, the bigger the account is, the better they are for you, the sweeter they look to your competition. All of your good accounts are good prospects for your competitors. So I ask you, do you have written plans in place to retain your largest accounts? Are you tracking the number of names added to your database from the account, which would give you an indicator of how many new relationships you're creating? The more relationships you have within that large account, the harder it is for your competition to dislodge you. How many LinkedIn follows have you established within that account? So you'll get the updates and news automatically through LinkedIn's capability. Do you and or your team have industry-specific expertise? But large and strategic accounts are best handled with a plan. And in your toolkit, you'll see a document called the Large Account Planning Guide. Please print that out and take a look at the questions that I would ask you were you to fly me to your location to conduct a large account planning session. But you see, my philosophy is we lose our largest accounts or we suboptimize the revenue and profit from our largest accounts because of what we don't know, not because of what we do know. Now, there is a real problem in most sales forces that we need to address, and it's called lack of sales practice. I've heard countless number of salespeople say, I don't need practice. I went to a sales training session 5 years ago. Well, folks, again, going back to my piloting career, and I got my pilot's license in 1963, I practice flying every day. As a matter of fact, I'm going out to practice later this afternoon. And the reason I practice is I don't want anybody to read about me, and my wife and my children fly with me, and their safety is precious and uppermost in my mind. I want you to recognize that flying is easier than selling. I can do both. So I want you to have a team mastermind approach to your sales practice. To help you with that, in your toolkit, you'll find 26 scripted sales practice sessions. That's one every other week for a year. It will help your team learn, will help them improve, and it will help them brainstorm new, more effective ways to sell. I don't want you to practice selling in front of prospects. I've seen that too often, and it rarely has a good outcome. So if you're looking for sales improvements, don't look any further than your process. As I said at the outset today, the process was documented in 1873. If you agree with the fact that you're managing yourself and or your team with lagging indicators, you need to fix the process. If the process isn't written down, if it isn't documented, then you have an ongoing series of problems. More often than not, the process is not aligned, the selling process is not aligned with the buying process. Don't ask your team to do multiple tasks. They should focus on selling. Salespeople should sell, and everyone else should do everything else. Otherwise, attrition goes up. Now, the approach Tom and I advocate is for companies that close well after they meet prospects, but they're not meeting enough prospects. The companies that digital marketing works best for are companies where the sales team is too busy, legitimately too busy, to do enough prospecting. Now, the combination of getting in touch with decision makers becoming increasingly more difficult and the available time to get in touch with those decision makers decreasing has created a time squeeze or a conundrum that's frustrating many companies. Digital marketing completely eliminates that problem. If your current activities have a low reach and or low frequency, we have to change it. If you have a small database, please, as soon as you're done with this webinar, call any list broker and ask him or her for a count. That's the phrase they look for, a count of demographically desirable opportunities in the geography you want to sell to. If you have strong competition, you can beat them to the punch if you employ digital marketing. Nothing's more satisfying to me than to know that my competitor got hurt because I was more proactive, I was the first one there, I followed up better, I followed up more consistently, and my DNA lends me towards being a very competitive person. If you are waiting for your customers to call you, then life is going to be very rough for you in the near future. We have found that 70% of customers buy to solve problems, 30% buy to gain something. I want you to review your proposals and your presentations as soon as possible. Are you selling or telling? And in today's high-tech world, I've encountered a lot of salespeople that do a lot of telling, and they hope that the customer will deduce the benefits, and the customer will turn around and say, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you so much. So I want you to review your proposals, and the difference between a selling proposal and a telling proposal is a telling proposal will both solve a problem and illustrate in a quantified fashion how the problem solution will produce a benefit. Now, at the end of the day, another great way to employ digital technology is to use it to ask for referrals from your database of existing customers. Research shows that 91% of customers are willing to give referrals, but only 11% of sales teams ask for those referrals. So it's like old school sales training. You must ASK to GET, and it's so easy to do with a good, well-written email campaign, and it's amazing more companies don't do that. Now, I'm also a dog lover, and this guy impressed me. You know, try and get that bone out of his mouth. He's going to follow up on that bone until it is completely devoured. So do you and your team follow up with an equal level of persistence? We have found that 80% of new business closes after the 5th contact, but 44% of salespeople quit after 1 contact. That delta is your opportunity. So I want you to, again, follow up until they buy or die. Recognize that digital marketing will help you find and fill your funnel with people who are ready, willing, and able to buy. The Sales Lead Management Association published a study which shows that only 3% of customers are ready to buy. 97% of the prospects that digital marketing will surface will buy in the future. So please don't evaluate digital marketing as a vehicle to get 100% of the market next week. What it will do is it will find the people that are ready to buy today. It's important that you use closed loop marketing technology to stay in touch with that 97%. I want you to, at minimum, go through that database at the beginning of your relationship over a 10-day period with 6 to 8 emails. After that, monthly. Closed loop marketing looks like this schematically. Harvard Business School and the Aberdeen Research Group published a study that says that roughly companies that buy will buy 47% more when they're nurtured. Nurturing means every 30 days or less, the prospect gets a message from you that is a digital message. It's the least expensive and time-consuming way to do this. It can be fully automated. The secret sauce is make sure these messages are not pitches. If you're pitching, you're in trouble. If you're selling to large accounts, rule of thumb is I want you to use digital marketing to get in touch with and stay in touch with at least 7 decision makers or influencers if the account has more than 100 employees. Use my large account planning guide to document what you're going to do to grow these accounts. These accounts can be retained if and only if you treat them like prospects, because at the end of the day, they are prospects for somebody's next order. The key is I want them to be prospects for you. And the most important thing that you can get out of today's presentation is utilize the intuitive team to improve your marketing footprint. The bigger your marketing footprint, the more leads you'll get. The more leads you'll get, the more deals you'll get. And it's very simple math. Your marketing footprint is calculated by multiplying your reach times your frequency. So if you have 1,000 names in your marketing database and you're touching them 2 or 3 times a year, then your footprint is 2 or 3,000. I want you to have 100,000 names in your database, and I want you to touch them every month. The more often you touch them, with educational, valuable material. The secret sauce is do not pitch a prospect repeatedly. Educate them. Show them how other customers have taken advantage of the unique features that you and your prospect and your organization offer. Yeah, this is a tragic chart. It's a little bit busy, but this was done by the Dartnell Sales Institute. And the process of creating relationships is what it's all about. If you want to add millions to your top line, you have to create more relationships. If you don't have enough relationships, you'll never have enough revenue. It's just that simple. And studies have shown, and this was a survey of salespeople, and the survey found that 50% of salespeople abandon a new opportunity after one contact. 90% of salespeople acknowledge that they give up after 4 contacts. But if you look further down the stair steps there, if you will, the customers aren't ready to buy until the 8th or 9th contact. That's why the tenacious 10% that never give up are the ones that win the most business. Get in touch and stay in touch. Use digital marketing to get in touch and digital marketing to stay in touch until they're a sales-ready lead. That's when a human being needs to get in there. So digital marketing will get you to the magical intersection where business happens. You see, I believe no one will buy anything from you if they don't trust you. And they can't trust you if they don't know you. Digital marketing can make that introduction, and then repeated touches can enhance the level of trust. Now, no one can predict the timing of a company that you don't know and that doesn't know you regarding when they'll buy or replace or upgrade. Consequently, let's use digital marketing to get in touch and build and maintain trust, and then let's use content marketing and closed loop marketing, again, digitally, to stay in touch until they're ready to buy. So as we say here in Hollywood, that's my story and I'm sticking to it. If you'd like to have a complimentary consultation with me, and or if you'd like us to conduct a free sales potential study, give us a call at 310-447-4102 or email me at gil@gilcargill.com, and there's 1 L in Gil and there's 2 L's in Cargill. So feel free to give me a call and we'll move forward from there. So Tom, that's my story. Are there any questions in the chat room?
One question that came up, and that's about how do you build a team? How do you go about with the recruitment part? And maybe that's a completely different webinar, but a few insights on the recruitment and building the team would be really good.
Oh wow! The first things first. The Wall Street Journal published a study that said hiring a salesperson that fails cost the company $600,000, and that's a combination of out-of-pocket cost, and the biggest portion of that $600,000 is due to damage they do to your reputation in the marketplace, opportunity dollars. So, and in today's market, I think that especially for growing companies, the tendency is to try and hire a salesperson who knows everything about your industry and can do everything you want. And I do have a separate recorded webinar. If that person would send me an email, I'll send you a link to the webinar on how to recruit and hire. And I've got an entire curriculum based on that. But make sure that instead of hiring a salesperson, if you're starting your company and growing, we want to hire a sales development person. Hire that sales development person and utilize digital marketing to fill the funnel before you hire an expensive outside salesperson. The classic mistake is we hire an outside salesperson and we say, okay, here's the yellow pages, go get them, Bubba or Bubette. But you will be far more profitable if you fill the funnel with digital marketing and have a sales development representative teeing up opportunities for that outside salesperson. You'll also find that when you show a good salesperson that this is your process and this is your environment, your offer becomes far more attractive than anybody else who, by and large, is going to say to them, okay, welcome aboard, go find your own business. So fix the process before you try to hire salespeople. Otherwise, your chances are slim, especially in today's economy. I don't know what state that person's question's coming from, but across the country, my clients are finding it very difficult to find quality men and women to hire, especially quality men and women with industry-specific experience. And it's a mistake in my mind to hire based on that criteria. We should hire based on the DNA of a hunter and teach him or her your business. So a little counterintuitive, but it's worked for 41 years, so it's more than just luck.
Excellent, Gil. This has been a great webinar. I want to add one thing about the leading indicators that you mentioned, which is the fact that through digital marketing, you can control leading indicators. So think about that for a second. You can control the leading indicators by using digital marketing to get more impressions and views of your brand. And then those leading indicators will drive your business. So it's the concept of focusing and getting the content together that will grow your website traffic, your followers in social media and so forth. And we've seen repeatedly over the last 20 years, any company that does that will see their sales increase. They'll see more leads coming in and they'll close more business.
Excellent. Well, I've enjoyed being here. Thanks for inviting me.
You bet. Thanks a ton, Gil. And we will get the toolkit out to everyone that registered or attended. And we will be in touch with future webinars. Thanks a ton, Gil. Everyone have an excellent week and make it a great sales month this month.
Good deal. Go sell somebody something. See you guys.
See ya.
Bye-bye.